When the king of the monsters is in need of aid, he can look to the air. Here's a look at these Star Ace: Godzilla x Kong, The New Empire, Titans Rising, Mothra, soft vinyl figure. Elevate your collection with a stunning Star Ace Mothra soft vinyl figure, inspired by the popular 2024 film Godzilla x Kong: The New Empire. This meticulously crafted statue captures the essence of Mothra, showcasing her vibrant, colorful wings that shimmer with iridescent detail. Standing an impressive 32 centimeters tall and boasting a wingspan of 47 centimeters, Mothra gracefully hovers over an intricately designed pyramid base, bringing a touch of cinematic magic to your display. One of the nicest looks we've had for Titanis Mothra. If you'd like to get your hands, though, on the Godzilla x Kong: The New Empire vinyl figure of Mothra, just know that she's dropping the third quarter of 2025. Like before, when we looked at the Mecha Godzilla, there's actually going to be two versions of her. A normal, non-illuminated version that's going to be selling for $219.99, or if you prefer to have the pyramids light up, then that one's going to be selling for $229.99, so a difference of $10 there. I'd like to again thank the folks over at Star Ace that did provide this sample. There's a little bit of assembly that's required. More importantly, you have to attach on Mothra's wings. You have to then attach Mothra onto the display stand, and then you have to attach the display stand to the base. Maybe not that order. Once it's fully assembled, though, I'm going to take my tape measure here, and let's measure just how tall Mothra stands. I guess probably the best thing to do is measure to the very top of her wing, so let's just bring her over just a little bit so I can reach it. Right to the top of the wings I go. You're looking at Mothra being 12 inches. That's pretty tall. That's going to work out to be a 30 centimeters tall statue. If you're looking at just Mothra's wingspan alone, not to hook around her legs, from one end of the wing to the other, Mothra's wingspan is 17 inches, or roughly about 44 centimeters long. Before we get down to looking at installing things, we look at the other things that come included with Mothra. Like, for example, the figure does come included with a 2-sheet instruction booklet. Now, I pose this question to you: would it still be an instruction booklet if the pages aren't technically attached? The normal and the deluxe, the first sheet won't change really at all. The same steps are included to attach Mothra onto her display base. Now, the one that was provided to me by Star Ace happens to be the normal version. And yet, though, the second sheet is more breaking down the basics of what you have to do with the deluxe. The back of the abdomen for Mothra, you have to open and remove the battery cover. Then you have to install the crucial button cell battery CR927. It does also come included with a magnet piece that actually looks like a player token from Trouble, and then you touch that to the side of Mothra's face and it illuminates the eyes. It's funny that this is all kind of mentioned, because I noticed, though, that the battery compartment is still present on the standard version. I don't know, it probably doesn't light up, though. You would, though, also have the option of having a portable charger. Now, that's something that's sold separately. With the normal version, though, you still have the option of the illumination on the display base. So whether you get the normal or you get the deluxe, this area is still going to stay the same. At least I'm basing it from mine. So let's move the sheets off to the side here. You also get, of course, yourself the cable. Now, the cable is going to be something, unfortunately, being that it's not a universal one. You can't just use one that you've got around the house. It was a lot easier with Mechagodzilla, for example, because it was using USB-C. If I didn't really like the length of the cord, and actually, to be fair, that's what, like 3.5 feet long? That's still pretty long. Still easy enough that I can reach my USB cable right over here, just off to the side here. Now, actually, when we looked at the Mechagodzilla, I chose to use a longer cable, just with the worry that I didn't think it was going to reach. But I think I'm still going to be able to reach this fine. The only downside to using a cord like this, if you have plans, for example, where like your power supply is over here, but you're looking to display Mothra way over there, you may have to try to look to getting like a USB hub, for example, that has a little link to it. A lot of times now you can get yourself also outlet bars, power bars, that's going to have USB ports on there as well. So, I mean, that's got enough length of it already. And then you add on to that the length of this cable. I think you should probably be okay, though. This is going to plug onto the, well, in this case, it's actually on the side, just the way I've got this configured right now. You could also, I'm sure, twist this around so it's facing the back so you don't actually see the hole. I'm going to plug this in a second. Now, the one that was provided to me is SA6058. The 5.9 is the deluxe version, but what's interesting, though, about the standard version, it seems to still have the makings of what would be a power supply built into her body. I don't think she illuminates. She didn't also come include with a little magnet piece, so I wouldn't be able to turn her on and off. However, though, let's go ahead and get everything broken down, get to the basics of Mothra. She comes basically on top of a display base that has to be assembled. So I'll just put her off to the side here for a second. you get yourself this display base with all these formed pyramid crystals. Very, very cool. These all will illuminate. Of course, once you plug everything in, you plug the cable on the side, you plug it into the USB port, you're good to go. Now these, there's a little bit smaller ones. These won't illuminate. It's only really these two that will. You get yourself as well a neck piece, and the neck is actually adjustable. So just take that off for a second. This does have some flexibility for it. And basically all it is just you're going to take this part and you're going to screw it into the hole in the middle. Now, I didn't think that, I thought the cords would maybe be a little too tight, that it would be hard to twist this in place, but oh, I never had any real issues at all. If you're looking at also the top of this, where this plugs into Mothra, there is a specific way it has to line to her body. So when you take Mothra, for example, if you just follow the contours, don't put it in this way, for example, it has to work on an angle. But if you line everything up where now this is going to run against the bottom of her belly, everything should fit in fine, and then you just basically attach her into that hole. So there's the hole right there, and we just line everything up. And if everything is good to go, I don't know why I'm doing it in such an angle like this. If everything is good to go, you just plug her onto the body. You just plug her onto the display base, I should say. Just like that. There you go. Now, I mean, it does lose a little of the illusion, the fact that this has to be black, but in order for this to adjust, I think it would be a little harder to do in clear plastic. The other thing that has to be included for assembly is to attach her wings. Now, just before we actually attach Mothra's wings, the part I did want to show you, though, is the back of her abdomen area. So this does remove. Kind of have to wiggle it back and forth here. There we go. And there's the battery. Now, for all intents and purposes, you should be able to fit yourself the button cell battery in there. But I have a feeling, though, with the normal version, they built Mothra the exact same way with both releases. Sure, you could probably put in the battery there, but I don't think anything would really illuminate. You're probably asking yourself the question, have you done that? Well, I tried to use the battery, and I couldn't get anything to work. Now, a lot maybe has to do with also the fact that there's no magnet. But I have a feeling, though, if you just used a regular magnet anyways, I don't think her eyes would ever really light up. So it does look like you're in basically the same Mothra, just without the functions of light up options. Now you're just going to plug that back in place. As already mentioned, though, the wings do have to be attached. The wings were one thing, though, that I found getting them, well, first of all, they're in a package tray separately. And then when you line them up, obviously you're going to have them facing only one way. So you get these eyes. I always thought they kind of look like tiger's eyes. Beautiful looking wings. Basically, you're just going to take this little ledged piece of plastic and you just fit it into the slot. The first couple of times you do this, you're going to find it's a little hard. You kind of have to twist it back and forth. I'm sure, though, once you get everything in place, you're not likely going to be taking the wings off. But seeing that I was reviewing this, I took the wings off a couple of times, just, kind of moving things around. That the third and maybe fourth time, the wings were super easy put in place. And yeah, you get yourself quite the nice wingspan. Just gorgeous looking wings, though. How intricately painted these are. I looked at this, I always kind of thought that these look like tiger's eyes, and they look just as good on the top as they do from the bottom. Now Mothra, though, you get a little larger of a Mothra. Now we have looked at Mothras on this channel before. Never really, I think, this size. Still packing some decent posability too. Doesn't look like you can really do much really with the middle legs. However, though, you can move the front legs back and forth. They actually look like they're in ball joints. So with ball joints, you get the flexibility of being able to know that you can move the legs out, you can move them forward and back. You can also do that with the back legs too. I did notice, though, that one of the legs, maybe it's this one right here, when I was kind of moving the legs around, every once in a while they do pop out. But being that they are just using universal ball joints anyways, I mean, just plugging them back in place is still super easy. Tons of paint, tons of detail went into Mothra, not only just with the head alone, but again, like with all the extra paint that they added to the wings. It's a glorious, glorious looking Mothra. It'd be a really hard figure, too, to display just on its own, so obviously you're going to make use of the display stand. The display stand on its own does illuminate, so let's go ahead and just take ourselves the plug. I'm going to have to reach down here and just grab the plug that I've got down below here. Plug in one end. There we go. You never really can get a USB plugged in the right way the first time. And then we're just going to take ourselves the other end and plug it in place. Now, the moment it makes connectivity, you'll see it illuminates. Not only does it illuminate first in pink, but then it cycles through different colors. So you get ourselves green, then it changes to a nice blue, then it changes to a purple, and then it changes back to a pink. I love that. Now, there isn't a setting at all to switch it where it will only just illuminate one color. Likely, though, if you're probably going to want to have this thing illuminating anyways, it's not going to bother you much at all that this thing's going to change and cycle through 4 different colors. It doesn't change at all whether you have Mothra attached onto the display base. Even if you leave her off, the display base is still going to illuminate no matter what. Again, if we want to take ourselves Mothra, I'm just going to unplug this for right now. Mothra, just lining up everything for the shapes. It's all about the shapes. So basically, when you put her on, you want to make sure that she's going down straight or more on an angle. You don't want to put her this way because you want to make sure that the abdomen lines up to the contour of the display base, and just plug it in place like that. Then take yourself the plug again. I should have had this a little bit more available. And then we're just going to plug it in. Now, this may be a difficult thing to pull off when it comes to putting her on the rotisserie at the end of this review. Just that, obviously, things are going to be turning around and the cord's going to get hung up. But if you have this always on a fixed place, always on your shelf, always on display, it makes for a rather interesting looking sight. I actually do like, too, that it illuminates and cycles through colors. It's not just a case where it turns on and stays on in that color. Cycling and changing 4 different colors, there's always something that you're looking at. And even though this isn't the deluxe version, where the eyes would also light up too, having this, though, in like a low-lit room, I'm not going to cut the lights just because, again, like the coloring of the pyramids are really the only thing it's going to illuminate. But you would imagine, though, in a low-lit room, how that would also illuminate the undercarriage or the undersections of her wings. It's a glorious-looking Mothra. If you're a fan, though, of Godzilla's Mothra, I mean, I don't think we've had a better example than this. I'm surprised, really, that it also still has the amount of posability that she's packing. Yes, the wings don't move. I don't really feel like the wings needed to move anyways. Once you've got them plugged in place, had you put a hinge there anyways, with the size of the wingspan and the amount of plastic material that went into making them, I think it would only make for top-heavy wings that would eventually start to droop. These are plugged securely in place. They're not going anywhere. If you did want to move things, obviously, you always have the option of moving the fronts and the backs of her legs. So there is a little bit of posability. So in that sense, she does live up to the word being called a figure. But I'm certainly, from a showpiece, visually stunning. Something that also, like, even if she doesn't have the deluxe feature options where the eyes don't illuminate, I'm not bothered at all by that. What I'm really getting instead is a showpiece, a statue on the shelf that's not going to only just draw your attention to fans of the Godzilla films, but any fans of collectibles are going to spot this Mothra right away. I did try to keep the cable plugged in so Mothra would keep illuminating while she was rotating. Then it only really worked for a few spins before I realized that things were getting a little tight. So unfortunately, having to leave it off right now. Now, you could always go and use like a portable battery, for example. A charger is sold separately by Starace, but it's not to say, though, that you couldn't use an external battery that you usually use to charge your phone, because it really works the same way. The thing I'm sure you'd have to be careful of is controlling the amount of wattage, the power that's going to Mothra. You would keep it, though, on a low setting. So, like, for example, there's I think usually a 2V and a 5V option on your external batteries. You would want to keep the low charge, because I think anything higher than that could run the risk of damaging the light source. Speaking of the light source, though, for Mothra, while this, though, isn't the deluxe version is the one that's going to have the illumination on the eyes. It's interesting, though, that she still has that feature plugged on her back of her body, but it's not something, though, that even putting in a battery, I couldn't get it to work. Now, you're probably already asking, well, couldn't you have just used a magnet? I did also use a fridge magnet. I'm kind of just finding the tools that I had around the house, using, though, even a fridge magnet didn't do the job of illuminating her eyes. So it seems like even though it's built into both Mothras, it's only really the deluxe version that's going to have the wiring in her body. Still, though, if you guys are interested to get either one of these, Mothra is slated to drop actually the third quarter of 2025. The difference of, again, prices between the two, the standard version or the normal version that we looked in this review, is going to sell for $219.99, whereas then to spend $10 more, you can get the deluxe version, releasing around that same time, for $229.99. So a difference of $10 gives you then whether you want to have illumination in Mothra's eyes or you're fine just to have the crystals. Either way, though, I'd like to thank the folks over at Starace that did provide this sample of the brand new upcoming release, Godzilla X Kong: The New Empire Mothra, that we had the chance to have a look in this review. One of the best Mothras we've gotten in a collectible figure. You be the judge. What do you guys think of this? Let me know. If you guys also did enjoy this video, you can, of course, do the solid of hitting it with a like. You guys want to stick around for more so? Yeah, I hope so. By the way, though, if you guys still need your fix for star rays, because there's been quite a lot of territory I've covered for the company over the years, at the very end of this video, shamelessly plugging a playlist, there will be a playlist showing up of all the things for star rays that I've done over the years. Feel free to give that a watch if you have a little bit of time on your hands, or in this case, your wings. As always, guys, thanks for watching. See you guys next time.